so today's discussion is going to be our final discussion. And in today's topic, I decided to do eco burials. The reason why I chose this is because, for the fact of being, when we think of death, we never think of what happens to the earth. And this is the main thing that I was concerned of being buried. A lot of times, this isn't something that most people think of because you don't ever think of what's going to happen to your body after you pass away. So in today's discussion, I decided that that was going to be something that I emphasized a lot. It's something that I strive for in my daily life, is trying to be as eco-friendly as I possibly can with, water efficiency, making sure I recycle and whatnot. And especially being what's going to happen to my body when I die. Normally, funeral homes don't ever bring this situation up when it's being, laid out for a lot of what happens in a funeral. Because a lot of times, eco funerals don't cost as much as a normal funeral would, because the body is processed differently. There's not a casket, which, caskets are usually around anywhere from 4,000 all the way up to 30,000, just depending on the luxury of the casket. And to think that we're going to be buried in a casket that's $30,000 is just crazy. It's outrageous. So a lot of times funeral homes won't provide the information of what an eco burial is, because it's so efficient, it's so cost friendly, and it's something that's not really talked about. So that's why I wanted to go ahead and inform everybody about an eco burial. So basically what an eco burial is a burial that doesn't involve all the chemicals, the processing of the body, casket. Everything is eco friendly. So this being said, when you are buried, your body decomposes naturally, as it would if it was not untouched. So all of your chemicals release into the earth. However, this isn't as toxic as if you were filled with chemicals that were used to preserve your body. Basically, when we preserve bodies, we're injecting the body with tons of chemicals that actually are pretty harmful to our environment. Not only is it harmful to the soil, but once absorbed into the soil, it can actually contaminate our water sources that are under the soil. And this actually contaminates it far more worse than if our body was to naturally decompose, because with natural decomposition, our bodies are absorbed into the soil. It's also eaten by insects, carnivorous animals, and just reproduced back into the earth. So, that being said, this not only is effective for keeping our earth safe and green, but it's also a natural fertilizer for the soil. Now, when people think natural fertilizer by a dead body, it's not the best way to think of it, but it actually is pretty healthy for the earth, as much as it doesn't seem like it, especially if you were to burn the ashes of a body. A lot of people don't realize this, but when the ashes are burned, they actually contain a lot of vitamins, minerals, essentials for a lot of life to thrive. Might not be the biggest rose bush in the garden, but decomposers like mushrooms, also trees thrive off the ashes. Actually, water, when the ashes are spread into the water, animals that live in the water actually do thrive off the plants that use these nutrients from the ashes. So, that being said, when a body is sat into a casket full of chemicals, this casket is also full of chemicals, because you have to think of all the supplies and materials only this casket uses up. A casket can use anywhere from, sometimes even a lump sum of lumber. It uses a lot of lacquer and metals that just don't decompose, just as like a cardboard box, which is actually commonly used for eco burials. They go ahead and put the body in a cardboard box. Not only is that decomposable, but even muslin cloth can be used, where they wrap up the body very nice, and then it just decomposes naturally through that muslin. So not only is it effective on saving natural resources. It's also effective on saving um, a lot of the Earth's surroundings. So, how do you do an eco burial? The only thing about eco burials is that since they are so rare, they are only readily available in certain, usually major cities. Um, there are websites online that actually will process the body for you. If you contact them, they'll come pick up the body, get it ready for natural burial. It is still in the question to be licensed for natural burial, as crazy as that sounds. A lot of burial sites are against it just because they want the money that comes from a normal burial. Again, being buried is a whole business. It's something that people make their living off of. It's something that people can tax on. It's something that can evolve if we make the expenses less. So that's why eco burial also, on top of that, is not something that is commonly talked about. Not only can we do eco burial by just taking the naturally decomposing body and putting it into the ground, but you can also burn your ashes more naturally with an actual fire instead of a cremation bin. And this also is something different. Normally people, when they think about being cremated, they think it's really easy, it's just a flame. Actually, being cremated, the body is pumped with several chemicals to help it burn. Then it's put into a cremation oven that's actually composed of so many materials itself. And instead of using a flame, it actually uses chemicals that burn off so hot that it starts to decompose the body like that. So the ashes are contaminated and filled with tons of these chemicals that are used to burn it. So that being said, when you put the body into a natural cremation process, it's basically just like, I mean, as bad as it sounds, it's just like barbecuing the body. You're gonna put the body in a natural firewood. It's gonna burn into little cinders, eventually ash, and that ash is gonna be able to be spread out or buried as well. A lot of people actually tend to put it in a flower pot or put it with a tree, and then the tree grows from those ashes. So even though this sounds really odd, when you think about it, it sounds more odd pumping a deceased body with tons of chemicals and throwing it in the ground for it to just stay preserved underneath the ground instead of decomposing naturally like we all should. We're all made from this earth, so we should decompose into it. And basically that sums up my discussion for today. Again, it's a great thing to think about the earth, not only in today's time, but when you're gone, what will your body do to this earth when you're gone? And it's just something that everybody should think about. I feel like it's something that can have a huge impact in today's society, as well as the whole burial process. Although maybe the financing is a little different on a financial spectrum, it's a great thing to consider for when you're going to pass away. And that's my discussion.